Hey, good evening, everyone. We're so excited that you're all joining us tonight. Tonight, we have the pleasure of welcoming Eddie Loussararian to give his workshop on winning the interview. Eddie graduated in 1994 in hospitality management from Cal Poly Pomona. He's a recognized expert at developing and implementing highly effective training programs, including his company's university program, which has been ranked in the top 50 worldwide for the last 3 years by Training Magazine. Before I turn it over to Eddie, I just wanted to let you know this workshop is being recorded. We placed everyone on mute, but we do want it to be interactive. So if you have a question, please place it in the chat, and we'll be monitoring the chat and making sure those questions get answered. If you feel more comfortable speaking and saying your question out loud, please unmute yourself, ask the question, and then remember to mute yourself again. We will be sending out this presentation and a link to the recorded presentation to anyone who registered in the next few days. Now I'd like to introduce Eddie Loussararian.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Welcome, everyone. We're going to talk for about an hour on this topic called winning the interview, which if you signed up for this interview or this meeting, rather, there's something to gain from it, right? There's a reason. Some of you are either furloughed or you're looking for a job, maybe both, right? Maybe you were furloughed in anticipation of getting laid off, as many companies are doing these days, and you find yourself in the interviewing group again. So some of you may have interviewed for your current job many years ago, and you need some assistance in getting you the win, right, so to speak. So I'm going to talk about a lot of different things today, and let me give you a little bit of background about myself. Like Andrea said, I'm a Cal Poly grad. I studied hospitality management, graduated in '94. Can you believe it's 26 years already? And then I earned my MBA from the University of Redlands. I went on to work for Pizza Hut and Extended Stay America, which was my undergrad, so I might as well test my luck there. I spent 10 years in hospitality, and then I transitioned into the flooring industry, which is where I currently work. For the last 18 years, I've been a director of training, overseeing the training efforts for an employee base of about 1,200 employees. And I'm also an author of 2 leadership books, When Bosses Go Wild and 64 Life Hacks for Success. I'm also a professor in currently 3 universities, and over my career, I've taught at a number of other ones as well, and you can see this here. So it's an honor for me to speak to my fellow alums at Cal Poly, and let's go ahead and get started. At the height of the pandemic, when this thing, COVID-19 or coronavirus, hit in March, and there were 40 million unemployed claims filed. That's a scary number, folks. And employees were worried. They were seeing their coworkers cut. They were seeing their supervisors get laid off. And currently, companies are still looking to reduce headcount and cut payroll. Why? Because the business hasn't come back yet. Now, you might hear Wall Street's doing well. That is the case. The technology sector is booming. The stay-at-home stocks are booming. But you might be working for a small mom and pop organization, a restaurant, for example, the butcher down the street, a Starbucks, a hotel company. These industries are still suffering, and they're looking to cut payroll. And one way to do that is to reduce the headcount. So there's millions of people. I think at last count a couple of weeks ago, there were still 20 million people unemployed in the United States. So let's see what we need to do through this conversation tonight to win the interview once you get the opportunity, that is. So here's my first question to you guys tonight. What do you see on the screen? Anyone, just turn on your mic. Tell me what you see, and please don't say the Japanese flag. That's an obvious answer.
Red dot.
A red dot, okay. Let's expand that. What else do you see besides a red dot? Julie McCurdy, why don't you give us an answer? And
lots of room for potential in the blank spaces.
Excellent, Julie, you're an ace. You're gonna win your next interview. So everyone, Julie's answer is right on. And whoever said red dot, that's also correct, but I want to focus on the background. If you guys don't mind muting your line, so we don't hear all that interference associated.
Eddie, unfortunately,
Muted.
muted.
Thanks, Andrea. So everyone, the white space is what we're going to focus on over the next hour. This is opportunity, and this is how we're going to get the opportunity. Winston Churchill said, to improve is to change, to be perfect is to change often. You may have prepared 10 years ago when you got your last job, but I'll tell you one thing, that perfect resume may not resonate with employers today. It may not pass the computer test, which is filtering out certain keywords. It's looking for certain qualifications that you may not have included in your resume. And thus we need to have this mindset of continuous change, and we need to adjust, right? One of the things that we need to adjust is our attitude. If all you're doing is waking up, getting out of bed, and doing exactly what you did the previous day, then that is not a recipe for success these days. That may have worked for you 10, 20 years ago. When you were in college, your parents were supporting you, that may have worked back then. I know it did for me. But now we need to have an attitude adjustment. And I'd like to impress upon you that Charlie Chaplin and Albert Einstein met many, many years ago. And one of the things they communicated was Einstein said, the things that people admire about you is you don't say a word, but everyone understands what you're saying. And Chaplin replied, but the glory is far bigger than, your glory is bigger than mine. The entire world admires you, but nobody understands what you're saying. So the two words I want you to take away from this slide is expression and speech. And you need to be a master of both of them in order to win the interview. In other words, the actions that you put forth, the expression, your attitude, your body language, the preparation is the expression. The speech is what do you do when you're in front of the potential employer. So let's keep those two words in mind as we advance to the next slide. Now, some of you have eaten at a fine dining restaurant, and if you have ever worked in one like I have, then you know that the table setting is very important because it sets the mood, it sets the ambiance. And if your table isn't set properly, then no matter how good the food tastes or how good the service is, something's going to be off, right? So what I've learned in my career is if you don't like how the table or your surroundings or whatever it is you're dealing with is set or looks like, then change it up. You are in control of your destiny. Don't wait for somebody else to tell you your resume sucks. Don't wait for somebody to say, hey, you should really have LinkedIn exposure. You need to be the controller of your destiny. And the four things we're going to talk about today are how to prepare your packet, how to make a great first impression, how to execute the plan, and why it's important to follow up after an interview. So let's go ahead and begin with preparing your packet. Now, you might think, or you may have heard, that a solid resume is all it takes. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not true. That's a part of what it takes to win the interview. So, as I just mentioned, your resume is going to be on a stack of maybe 100 or 1,000 others just like you. Maybe they've graduated from Cal Poly or the Cal State system just like you. They may have been in cross country or the drama club just like you. They may have the same experience level, the same passion you proclaim to have. So what's going to separate you from everyone else? So what I want you guys to get really good at, especially these days, is when you're looking at a job profile, when you're on Indeed or Monster or whatever internet posting you're looking at, make sure the words that are on the qualifications that they're looking for are on your resume as well. I can't tell you how many jobs over the years I've lost because of that. So it's important. If they're looking for an internal auditor that has 3 years of experience or a teacher that has taught K through 12 with an English background, or must be a Spanish speaker. And even though you are, if you haven't included that, then nobody knows that about you. So make sure whatever's on the job qualifications section, use those keywords, add them to your resume. You might have to change it up. You might have to have a different resume for every job you apply for. So be it, right? Just keep rotating files. I also want you guys to consider thinking out of the box when in terms of preparing for your packet. For me, that out of the box thinking includes this career wheel. So every time I engage a recruiter, every time I send out a packet, I also include my career wheel. Why? Because nobody has time to read a 3-page resume like I have. No one has time to sift through line by line my experiences, my education, etc. So this gives them a quick 1-page glimpse of everything that they need to know about me. Now, of course, I'm going to leave off my family and awards that I've won. For that, they're going to have to go to my resume, or hopefully they're going to learn that about me during the interview. But this at least is a professional illustration of Eddie Loussararian. The cover letter, 1 page, a few paragraphs, a few bullet points will suffice, highlights of what it is that you've done, and secondly, what it is that you can do for this company. So there's a little bit of research involved here. If you're applying for, let's say, Starbucks as a manager, then it's probably prudent for you to know something about Starbucks, where they're falling apart. Maybe they're having a management issue. Maybe you can make a recommendation in your cover letter and say, in my experience visiting so many Starbucks over the years, this is one area of opportunity, and my recommendation to fix that is this. Who's not going to want to listen to you if you're coming up with recommendations, right? These days, people are quick to air their dirty laundry. They make all these, they highlight things that are wrong in the company, but nobody ever comes to the table with solutions. So guys, I implore you, be solutions minded in order to get a seat at the adult table. In order to be recognized as interview worthy, you must have that attitude of, I'm going to solve a problem for this organization. Next, 2 letters of recommendation. You might not have any today. You might not have even been looking for a job today. So ask people who are in a leadership position in your life, professors perhaps, past employers. The higher up the food chain, the better, right? If you have a relationship with the CEO, that's probably a good one to have in your hip pocket. So be prepared for it, because employers these days, whether you're emailing them or applying on their website, are asking for at least 1, if not 2 letters of recommendation. The wrong time to start scurrying to get these components for your packet is when you're applying for the job. It's already too late. By the time you get a letter of recommendation from your CEO or your professor, a month could pass, and by then the job posting would have ended. So be prepared. Have a list of references also. With every job application, they're asking for references, right? So you're going to have to know the person's first and last name, their title, their phone number, their email address. Just be prepared. If they ask for 5, have 5 ready. No less than 3 though. And if they don't ask, no problem. You just don't use that piece of paper. Save it for future use. College transcripts. I have my Cal Poly transcript. I have my Redlands transcript ready to go. Some employers are asking for 1 consolidated document. So I had to scan both of them onto 1 document. I'm ready either way. If they want my MBA transcript, I have that. If they want my undergrad and MBA, I'm ready for that too. Again, guys, get ready for the packet, because they're going to ask you for these components. Now's the best time to prepare, when there's a lull in the action. Are there any questions before I move on? Okay, let's talk about making a great first impression. Now, while I don't expect all of you to dress like I do for an interview, now I always wear a suit. I go into work looking like this. I change up my suit every day, but if I was going to go into interview at Amazon, let's say, for a driver, then I'm not going to wear a suit. Why? Because the environment does not dictate a suit. So I'd go in business casual. Maybe I'll ditch the tie. Maybe I'll have a vest or a jacket and a shirt. whatever it is, guys, dress for the moment, never dress down, lower than how the company culture requires. So there's a little bit of research there as well. You don't want to be the only one dressed in a suit. But if you're in a room full of suits and you're not dressed to the nines, now you're in trouble, right? Because this is part of your image. So I'm not going to put a poll out there right now and ask which one of these is considered to you to be inappropriate. But I think we'd agree if you were going to apply in a professional environment, we probably all agree that this image right here is probably not going to get you a second look. This one probably will. This probably will. This one, questionable. This one might as well, depending on the level that you're applying for. So guys, never be caught off guard, and always make sure that your first impression is a memorable one. If what they're talking about after you leave is how you dressed in a positive way, then that's a win, right? Then they can check that box. If, however, they're talking about it negatively because you wore a tank top and flip-flops, now that's not a good thing. So represent yourself, represent your brand. Remember, you're also representing Cal Poly wherever you go. So wear that shield proudly on your chest. Know that you have our support and get out there and win that interview. Now, more along the lines of winning the interview. I want you guys to make note of these things because they're super important. Number one, be early. That doesn't mean on time. Early to me means at least 30 minutes before you're scheduled to be there, you're ready to go. My presentation tonight was at 6 o'clock. I was in my suit, in my seat by 5:30, just in case my technology failed me. So whatever the case is, guys, you never want to be caught off guard with getting lost because no one's going to accept that as an excuse. You should have planned the night before what you were going to wear, lay out your clothes, at least talk about what you're going to wear or think about what you're going to wear the night before, and then plan your route. Go to Waze, go to Google, do something in preparation for not getting lost, okay? 30 minutes on time. People are looking for these little points, right? With everything that you do positively, you're going to earn a point. I want you to think about it like that. If you're running in while your interview is about to start, someone's making a mental note of that, and they're probably going to mark you down as being someone who's a red flag. Maybe it doesn't take the interview seriously. Maybe will show up to work late. So you could be a high maintenance person, or so they might think of you. So don't put your guard down. Be prepared. Be overly prepared. Be early. Be childlike, not childish. If you have an attitude that you want to have fun, then given the right environment, that may be acceptable. If you're going to apply or if your interview is in a very conservative environment, maybe being childish isn't the right approach, right? So have energy. That's where the childlike comes into play, but definitely don't be an adolescent. Don't be immature. Fight for what is yours. I can't express how important it is to show emotion during the interview. If you believe you're the best candidate for that job, then you've got to go out there and take it. You have got to earn their respect. You've got to show emotion, pound your fist, show body language, high five them, do whatever you need to do to separate yourself from the other stack of resumes that are on that recruiter's desk. It's your one and only shot. You got in the door, you're at the adult table. Why not show them your energy? A firm handshake at hello is prudent. Do not give them this little, fingertip handshake that so many people do. That is, you're going to lose some points there. I want you guys to go full, hand to hand, firm grip, and even if it's a lady you're shaking the hand with, go for it. This is your time to show the grip. Body language is important. No matter what, guys, do not break eye contact during the interview. I want you to sit there. I want you to have good posture. I want you to maintain eye contact. It does not do you any good to look past the person like I'm doing right now, or to turn your head because somebody else walked by, or to check your watch, or to cross your arms like this, Those are all bad signs for the interviewer. Show them respect, show them that you deserve the opportunity for this job, and make an impression on them. Read the room. This is another important one. For me, reading the room means I'm looking for books. Perhaps they've written a book and we can make an immediate connection. Perhaps they have pictures of their children on the desk or on the mantle, and that might spawn a conversation. Maybe they vacationed in Carlsbad where I vacation, and we can talk about going to the beach or going to, the outlets or something. Whatever it is, guys, you're trying to make an inroad with a stranger and to give you that edge that you desperately need. Is the interviewer tired? Are they expressing low enthusiasm? Maybe you can give them a pep talk. Maybe you can ask, be human, right? Show the human side of yourself and say, you know what? I'm sensing that you're down. Is there anything I can help you with? Now, who does that during an interview, guys? That at least shows that you care, that you have a heart for them, for humanity. You want to talk about separating yourself? Do something like that. They're going to remember you. If nothing else, they're going to say, that guy cares about people. I'm going to put him on my management staff. Ask questions. I used to write down every question that I was going to ask during the interview, and I called that preparation. These days, you know what I do? I teach people to ask questions based on the discussion points. So you're going to have a lot of questions coming at you. You might have a panel interview with 5 or 6 other people sitting across from you. So whatever they ask you, realize that you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. So don't ever feel like you can't turn the tables on them. Remember, it's a 50-50 proposition. If during this interview, you determine that this is not the right company or the right cultural fit for you and your life at this time, then knock them out, right? You have every right to say, I'll pass on this job, as I've done many times in my career. It's something just tells you this doesn't feel right. The only way you'll get there is by asking questions yourself. What does that do for the interview? It shows them that you're engaged, that you want to learn just as much as they want to learn about you. So don't be afraid, guys. Turn the tables on them. And while doing so, you're going to take all that pressure off of yourself that you drove in with, and now you become the interviewer instead of the interviewee. Stay on point. Do not go on tangents. Make sure that if they're asking you a question, you don't go out in the weeds and talk about something tangentially related. Focus on whatever it is they're talking about, and don't over talk. Say your piece, give your point, make your recommendation, stop. Do not over talk, because you might reveal too many things. Then someone in the room might say, you know what? I have a doubt about this guy. He's hiding something. So stay on point, be concise, stop, and then either ask a question or wait for the next question. Leave the baggage at home. This is an important one, as if none of these other ones were important, right? But I put this in red because this one could be a deal breaker. If you've had a bad boss in your life, and I wrote an entire book about this subject, When Bosses Go Wild, okay? If you have had a bad experience with a boss or a coworker, and you're harboring those ill feelings during the interview, it's an automatic knockout blow. It will come up through your conversation, through your emotions. Believe it or not, you might think of yourself as a great actor who can disguise those emotions, but it's going to come out. Someone could easily ask you, tell me about a bad experience you had with your boss. If you turn to him or her and say, well, that son of a bitch never respected me. All he did was pile work on my plate and never gave me the respect that I richly deserve. If that's the only thing that comes to your mind, guys, that's a deal breaker right there. So you've got to shed that baggage, as I'm calling it. Leave it at the door. Do not bring it in the interview with you. If you want to go home and have those feelings again in private, that's your decision. In my opinion, you need to shed that crapola, just leave it, and it's not going to do you any good psychologically throughout your life. So I encourage you guys, just leave it behind. A firm handshake is also required at goodbye. So stand up, make eye contact with the individual or people in the room, And, I don't care if it's the CEO and, 5 underlings, you have to shake everyone's hand equally. Do not let anyone go. Don't just say, wave at one of them when you shook the other 3 people's hands. Everyone earns equal or deserves equal respect. Get the interviewer's business card so that you can send them a thank you note. I'll talk about that more in a little bit. And then practice, right? If you haven't interviewed in a while, then practicing is a real good idea to prepare for the inevitable. Stand in front of a mirror, get your children involved, get your spouse involved, get whoever will lend you their ear and have them sit down and ask you a bunch of questions. At least, if nothing else, test your body language. Make sure you're not fidgeting. Ask for feedback from your family, whoever is in the room with you, so that you can perfect that trait or that experience. The only way to get better at interviewing is to practice. The more you do it, the better you're going to become, the more confidence you're going to gain. So if I were you and I had an opportunity to interview for a job that I didn't even want to take, I would still take that interview just to get an experience under my belt. Sign up for 5 interviews if you can. Even if you don't want any of those jobs, you get an experience out of it. And that's a win for you.
Eddie, we have several questions in the chat.
Fabulous. Lay it on me.
What about statements of qualifications?
Okay. Can you elaborate on that? Are you talking about how you're qualified for a job, how you should respond?
So it was from T. Borsky, if they can give some more information.
I'm so passionate, I'm sweating, guys. This is great. Keep them coming.
I'll go ahead and move on to the next one.
Sure.
Can you discuss virtual interviews, or are you going to cover that in your presentation?
Virtual interviews are awesome, and they're the wave of the future. So if you think about it, anytime you're on a Zoom call, or some companies do it through WebEx or GoToMeeting or whatever, Teams, get really good at talking to a computer. And this is where your edge is completely off the table, right? You're not stressed out. If you're good at talking where nobody can see you, right? You're just talking to a computer, maybe to your phone, then all the pressure is off. Now you can afford to be yourself. You go in there with all the confidence in the world and win that interview. It's all about mindset, guys. Whether you're in front of the person physically or virtually, the game is the same. The level of preparation is the same. I am not in the room with any of you right now, yet I'm still dressed up, right? I'm sweating here, but it was important for me to come here, show respect to my audience, and it's a virtual audience, right? I want you guys to remember me, if for nothing else, as being a professional with enough courtesy to dress up for the situation. And I want you guys to do the same thing. What happens below the screen is nobody's business. In other words, if you want to have your Bermuda shorts and flip-flops, slippers on, that's cool. Nobody needs to know that. But as you roll out of bed on interview day, you better shave, unless you have a beard, right? If you have like a day's worth of stubble on your face, not the professional image. If you have a full-grown beard, trim it at least, right? Make it look professional. The next day, if you want to look like some scrub who is unemployed, still looking for a job, like some days I get out of bed feeling like that, right? Because nobody's going to see me that day. I don't need to shave if I'm not going to be in front of an audience. But by golly, on the days that I'm going to be in front of people, virtually or otherwise, then I'm bringing my A game. My reputation is far too important for me to let my guard down even once. Because you can go an entire lifetime building up all these credits. One time you let your guard down, then it all falls apart. And now suddenly people are looking at you differently. So if there's anything you take away from this virtual question, it's that you should never let your guard down. Go in with the attitude, the same attitude as if you were physically in front of the interviewer, and you'll be just fine. Great question, thank you. Andrea, what's the next one?
How many questions are enough to ask during the interview?
Unlimited. I've kept the person there longer than our scheduled time, to get all my questions out. I've asked upwards of 10, 15 questions. Whatever it takes is what it takes. Remember, I need to learn as much about them as they need to do about me. So if it's an hour interview and we stay long, then so be it. And if they're not interested, then I move on, right? If all they give me is an hour, then we might be there a while. This is a career decision. So ask, do not be bashful, but definitely ask. Next question.
A follow-up to the statement of qualifications. They're asking, is there a better format than others? And what, if any, additional information should you put on it?
On qualifications. Okay, so I'm assuming the question is about the packet, right? So my qualifications, I put down, oh wait, maybe they're asking about the qualifications from the job profile and what to put on their resume, right? If that's the case, then look for the big buzzwords. So teaching, what languages you know, what grade levels you've taught. These are qualifications that you'll definitely want to highlight for the employer. Otherwise, their computer might kick you out because all you say is, I have teaching experience. So be specific. What level teaching experience do you have? Maybe they're looking for K through 12. And for me, I've only taught at the college level. So they may not like me to be a kindergarten teacher. I may not be qualified for that, or so they think.
That's all we have for now.
Okay, super. Keep the questions coming, guys. Those are great. Leave your baggage at home. So I want to touch on this a little bit more with the point about a bad attitude is like putting blinders on a horse. Now, usually a horse is set free out of the stable. They just want to run, right? They want to be free, unhindered. But if you keep blinders on the horse and expect them to look straight ahead, then you're not going to get total performance out of that horse, are you? It keeps all other avenues hidden from view. In other words, if you're harboring all that ill will about your coworker and a bad experience you had with a toxic boss, you're bringing that into the interview with you, then it's clouding your judgment. Now, instead of asking a question about, the work environment, you might ask a question of, who am I going to report to? How long has that person been here? How do they get along with their employees? Notice, and then they could ask you a follow-up question and it'll send you down a rabbit hole. Well, tell me about somebody you worked for and a bad experience you had. And that's when, if you haven't flushed it out of your system, it could rear its ugly head at the worst possible time and be the knockout blow that you're desperately trying to avoid. Next point, stop looking for gray clouds and start noticing the silver linings. If today is the first day that you shift your attitude to the positive, then this will have been a successful day for me. If I can at least influence one person on this call to embrace this bullet point, if you get nothing else out of this presentation, just do me a favor, write this one down. I write about it, an entire chapter of my book is dedicated to this. Stop looking for gray clouds. In other words, the doldrums, why you're having such a bad day or a bad year, a bad life. Stop focusing on that. Instead, I want you to start focusing on the silver linings, everything that is positive in your life. I have a healthy family. I have enough income to last me X number of months. I have, I live in a great community. I have a roof over my head. I get to eat and sleep where others can't, right? These are all wonderful things that you need to celebrate. But if all you're looking for are the next shoe to fall, the next bad news, then your approach needs to be adjusted. So every day you get out of bed, you have an opportunity to either say, my glass is going to be half full today or half empty. That's a decision that you and only you can make. And if you choose glasses half full, then I bet you, because of that attitude adjustment, you're going to have a positive day. It's tough to smile and be mad at the same time. Try it. It's like sneezing with your eyes open. It's almost impossible to do that. So just run your race, guys. It's your job. The only thing you have to do today is get out of bed and exude confidence, be happy, and as you interact with people, express that happiness. it's really, people are going to look at that and that confidence, and believe me, it's infectious. And now when you're in front of people, you're not faking it anymore, because this is who you are at the core, right? You've been practicing this. From tomorrow morning on, it's all about positivity. I don't care what situation you're in. I don't care what socioeconomic status is for you. I don't care how much money you have. You could have 2 commas in your net worth. It doesn't matter. If you don't get out of bed and project a positive image, then nothing else really matters, right? Be happy. Never badmouth previous employers. Don't indulge in that kind of conversation. Nobody wants to hear it. They have their own problems. Your demeanor can sabotage the process before it begins. I think I've talked about that ad nauseum. And check your ego at the door. This is not the time to project an image, fit into their culture. You're not some maniac that's going to come in and fit into their culture today. So don't be something to be a sponge, that's willing to grow with the company, that's willing to share your own experiences. Just be you, guys. It's not difficult. Follow up after the interview. My 4th point, write a personalized thank you note. Be brief, be friendly, make it conversational. The subject line is simply, or could simply be, thank you for the interview. And then in the body, a couple of paragraphs, really short, a few sentences each. Eddie, or dear Eddie, I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to interview for the Director of Training position at XYZ company. I enjoyed learning more about your work environment. I think based on my expertise and my experience and my education, I would be a great fit for your organization. Next paragraph, as we talked about, I'm just making things up as I go, guys. Because I practiced this, right? So I want you guys to be this capable of rattling things off. This shouldn't be stressful. This should be fun. Next paragraph, you're talking about things that you've either learned through the interview or through your own research that you can do or recommend that for them to improve a process. A process improvement that you mentioned that your company's struggling with is implementing the new CRM tool. I can imagine how in your company having invested $5 million in the Salesforce tool or Oracle tool is weighing on your leadership team. But I'm here to tell you, I have an idea. This is what I'm proposing to do. If given the opportunity, this is how I'm going to solve that problem for you. Who's going to say no to you, right? You have a positive attitude. You have you're solutions minded, you're dressed well, you have great body language, you have a great resume, you graduated from a great school. That's a lot of great, right? So get out there and make it happen, guys. But the thank you note is critically important, because not doing this is just as bad as not dressing up for the occasion. It's like going in there unprepared. It's like not practicing ahead of time. It's like not asking questions. It's part of the process, in other words. This is 1/4 of what you need to do to win the interview. This happens to be the 4th element of what we're talking about today. Add any significant information you may have forgotten during the interview. So if you, while you're driving home, you're kicking yourself for not telling Julie about an award you won or something you did to save the company $500,000, the thank you note is where you're going to highlight that for them. Leave them with a positive. Leave them with thinking about you. Like, oh my gosh, what if he could do that for us? Imagine we could have that $500,000 reimbursement from the state. We could really use that. Wait a week and call the recruiter back. Exude confidence, but don't sound desperate. So here's how it could sound. Sally, this is Eddie. We talked last week. I am still interested in the Director of Training position if it's still open. Have you given it a second thought? What is my next step? Now I'm exuding confidence, right? What is my next step? Not, okay, when will I, I'll just wait for your call. No, I don't want to wait for anything. I deserve this job and I'm going to take it. It is mine. I want you to tell me while I'm on the phone with you what my next step is, when I'm going to get my second interview, and why, what else you need for me to put myself over the top. Are there any other questions I can answer for you, Sally? Don't sound desperate. Don't say, well, I really need the job. Don't sound cocky like you guys will regret not hiring me. No, this is the time to remain humble, to exude confidence, and just tell them everything that you deserve out of that job. It's not about you, it's about what you can do for them, okay? So when I say deserve, I'm talking about telling them what your skill set is, reminding them that these are the things that I can do for your company. If you give me an opportunity, you can have your cake and eat it too. I'm going to be a solution-minded employee of yours for years to come. Let's make it happen, Sally. Now, there are 2 resources. There are thousands of resources out there for you guys, okay? I'm just highlighting 2 of them that I've written myself. And When Bosses Go Wild is a book I wrote 7 years ago that focuses on the workplace. If you're having a tough time with a toxic boss, you can't make you're not meeting eye to eye with your coworker, even family at home. You're just not connecting with them. There are 12 things that could affect your happiness at work in this book, such as my boss doesn't recognize me. Why? And what do I need to do about it? This book is written neutrally from the boss's standpoint, from the employee standpoint. Then the other book, 64 Life Hacks for Success, I think this is a great one for many different categories: love, education, family, money, faith, you name it, it's in here. 1 page a day is all that it takes here. Each life hack is 1 to 2 pages long. So if you wake up, get out of bed, you need some positivity in your life, just read 1 chapter of this book and you'll be set up for success in that day. Next, just a brief announcement. My next webinar for Cal Poly alums is going to be on September 17. If you so choose to sign up for Succeeding in Today's Economy, I'm going to come with a very powerful message about how to succeed and leave the doldrums of life behind. Today we focused on a very detailed category, and that is how to win an interview. Okay, that's specific. But in Succeeding in Today's Economy, we're going to talk about everything from life to attitude to career to time management. We're going to throw the kitchen sink at this one. And as an added bonus for signing up, for $5, you can get my 64 Life Hacks for Success book. The Alumni Association was kind enough to subsidize the book for each of you who sign up. So if you sign up, it's only going to cost you $5 plus fees. I think it's like another $1.24 that Eventbrite charges. So for $6.24, you get an awesome book out of it that's really going to be a great reference tool for you guys down the road. Now, if you need a lifeline, I am here for you guys. Okay, we are in an elite group of Cal Poly alums, and I am proud to be on your team. My contact information is right here. I'm also going to put it in the chat box right now, along with my links to my books. So if you guys are interested, call me, email me. I will be happy to help you guys, okay? But definitely reach out to somebody. We all need someone, a positive influence in our life, whether that's a pastor, an educator, somebody at work. We all need to rally around positivity. If you're struggling to get out of bed with the right frame of mind, latch on to somebody like that. It doesn't need to be me. I'm just offering up my friendship, my expertise, my positive attitude to you guys if I can help you. If you don't need to talk to me, you don't need to call me, but I'm available if you choose to. Now, are there any other questions, Andrea?
Yeah, Anna's going to go ahead and read off the rest of the questions.
Super, thank you.
Yeah, we have a bunch of questions actually. So the first
Bring
one
it.
back to the statement of qualifications. T. Borski mentioned that a lot of companies are now asking for a statement of qualifications in addition to the resume. So can you touch on that more?
A statement of qualifications? Sure. So that would be a paragraph. Maybe you put it at the top of your resume, like a profile. You call it qualifications if you like. In other words, what distinguishes you from everyone else? And for me, here's what I would say. I have my training program that I built from the ground up is ranked number 50th in the world. I teach through a blended learning approach. I've created videos. I do live instructor-led webinars. I created, quizzes. So if you're going to be part of my training, or if you are asking me to develop a training program for you, your students, your trainees, your new hires are going to be onboarded properly. They're going to get everything that they need to succeed in their new role. What did I just do? I told them a little bit about what I've done in the past. I've also given them the pie in the sky. This is what I can do for you. If you want an award-winning training program, then I'm your guy. If all you want is somebody to manage, the onboarding process and do nothing else but, click buttons, I'm probably not the right guy for you. Okay. Look, you guys need to know your value. You may be, at the early stages of your career right now, but you add value to the organization. So the qualifications section is that value that you're going to bring to them. What is it that distinguishes you from everyone else, right? I'm a family guy. Don't say that. Everyone knows that. I'm a college grad. Don't say that. When I was new to the resume game, I would put that. My experience and education, I would lead off with education. I'm a Cal Poly alum. And because I've graduated with my bachelor's, this is in 1994 when, very few people have bachelor's, as compared to today, where I bet you 2/3 of the population have a bachelor's today. So your competition is far greater than I had. But don't lead off with stuff like that. Go in with the meat. This is what I can do for you. This is what I've done in the past. If you want somebody with a results-oriented person, you hire me and I'll deliver all of this for you. If you want to be a best place to work, another thing I would say, I have done that for my employer for 2 consecutive years. We are ranked with amongst other companies like Chick-fil-A and Walmart and whoever else. We are on that list. If you want to be on that list someday, hire me and I'll get you there.
Great, thank you. And then Paulina asked, how soon should you follow up after the interview?
1 week. Don't wait any longer. Don't let it get cold. You want to strike while the iron's hot. You have had an awesome interview. You send them a thank you note. And then 1 week later, while they're still hopefully thinking about you, now you say, Sandra, remember me, your next director of training. I'm exuding confidence, right? I am your next director of training. So when do I start? I would be bold like that. Don't say, what do you think? No, that's BS. When do I start in this position? That's the level of boldness I want you to have when you call them back. And here's what I would do. If they don't answer, which they most likely won't, leave a message. If you're lucky enough to have their email address, send them an email as well. 1 week later, there should be a barrage of contact from you to them, and they should know that you are interested, you deserve it, and no one else will do but you.
Okay.
Next.
So how soon do you think they should send the thank you note? Like immediately after, or that night, the next day?
Great question. Great question. So here's what I've done. In the bold person that I am, I usually mail and I mail it. I don't email it, right? So getting their address is important. I mail it the night before in anticipation for talking to them the next day. And it's actually happened where I mailed it and then my interview got canceled. So they got my thank you letter before we even talked. That was kind of embarrassing. So whatever, right? I planned, I did my best. It was kind of awkward for me to say, hey, did you get my thank you letter before she even, but look, there's no right or wrong answer on this, just do it. Sure, you send it the night before, not after the interview, because the mail could be late. I shipped a book to Chicago, 2 months ago. It took 3 weeks to get to Chicago. So give yourselves enough time for them to open this note, a handwritten note, don't type it, handwrite it, on a nice thank you card. And while they're still thinking of you, your name is fresh in their mind, they're now going to read this very professional, confident thank you note with your phone number at the bottom and a business card, if you have one, that says, I'm the right guy or gal. If Martha, if you don't have an email address, I'm sorry, if you don't have their address, it's better to get it from Google, search for it, mail it, because why? You could email it, that's easier for you, more convenient, but it's not as personable, right? Anyone can send an email, but not everyone thinks about a handwritten note like they used to do back in the day. Think about it like this, Martha. If you got an email that is now in your inbox with 1,000 other emails from today versus your only handwritten note that says, thank you, I'm still thinking about you, which one is going to carry more weight for you? I think you'll agree it's the latter, right? So handwrite the note. It shows a personal touch. It shows that you took time out of your busy day to think about them or thank them. Next question.
It is, can you please explain the career wheel a little more? How do we add it to the resume?
Sure. It's not part of the resume. It's a completely separate document, like your cover page, like your letter of recommendations. So I have a, if you have Photoshop, that's how my friend did it. I don't have it, so I had to rely on somebody else. And I just took symbols like Cal Poly's logo, Redlands, my company's logo, just put it around the wheel. It doesn't have to look like mine. I've never seen a career wheel. It was just something I dreamed up to say, if, it's like an executive summary that we wrote in college, right? If somebody doesn't have time to read my 10-page report and all they have time for is the abstract or executive summary, then that's what this is. It gives them a glimpse behind the curtain of what Eddie Loussararian could be, or if they gave me a shot to interview. It's just a quick, here you go. Symbols only, not too many words, don't write a sentence. You saw mine, it says education, it says author, it says whatever, just a heading and then a symbol. They'll connect the dots.
Great, thank you. And then the next one.
As a matter of fact, just be an out-of-the-box thinker, because it's impressive. Not too many people think about doing stuff like that. If all you do is send a resume and then do the interview, that doesn't separate you from everyone else, which is why I'm saying career wheel, thank you letter, and everything in between. Next question, sorry.
That's okay. My experience on interviews explaining weakness into a strength has been successful for me when asked, what are my weaknesses? In your experience, is this question still being asked?
Yes, it is. What are your weaknesses? Usually it is asked with and they frame it up with the intent to make you stumble. You may have said something about a coworker, you may have said something about a boss. Now they might ask you the question that's going to be the dagger. What's your weakness? Well, I don't like working with people. I'm a loner. You see, by not being prepared for how to answer that question, now you might trip and answer it the wrong way. Everyone has a weakness, so do not say, I don't have one, or I don't know, or let me think about it, because that shows lack of preparedness. Instead, be prepared to answer tough questions like that. What is my weakness? Well, the longer you pause, the less confidence they have in your answer, right? So you got to have something ready. My weakness is I tend not to, so you got to be careful how you answer this, because I was about to say I jump to conclusions too quickly. because I'm a go-getter. I like to solve problems for my organization. They may be looking for somebody who has a collaborative mindset. So you got to be very careful there, right? So through the interview, you're going to hear them say, well, our departments collaborate. Nobody works on an island. They're not siloed here. That's important to keep in mind, right? That's an important nugget of wisdom you got to throw back in there in the chamber, because if they ask that weakness question, you cannot say, well, I don't like to work with people, when they just told you it's a collaborative culture, right? So pay attention when they're answering your questions, because you're not going through this exercise to ask them questions, if not to learn something about their culture. So you must remember these important answers that they give you and add them to your answers.
Okay.
Next question.
Question is from Julie. It's, with the number of applicants these days for each job, other than tailoring our resumes to match the keywords in the job description, do you have any advice on other ways to get past the applicant tracking software to actually get to the interview?
Great question, Julie. Be tenacious, be a pebble in the shoe, be somebody that, my wife likes to call a nag. So here's what you do. Here's what I would do. Here's what we should do. Do not settle for the ATS, or applicant tracking system, to be your gateway to the recruiter, because you're just on a pile of resumes that they may not see you. Call them. A disadvantage of calling them is nobody's in the office today. They're all working remotely. So you've got to leave a message. If you're lucky enough to talk to a human being in a different department, try to get their email address, the recruiter's email address. They're not going to give you the hiring manager's email if it's a large enough company. If it's a small mom and pop company, you might get lucky enough to get the hiring manager's, or maybe that's the owner, email address or name. Or if somebody's dumb enough to give you their cell number, take it, ask for it. It never hurts to ask. The worst that could happen is they'll say no. So Julie and everyone else, write this down. They haven't called me back. Now I'm a little pissed off, right? Because I deserve this job. I'm the best candidate for it. I'm getting I just did a Google search. I looked up Tile, my company, or the company I work for, and I'm looking for a contact. Okay, it says, call this number for the receptionist. I call that number, it's a recording. Now I'm going back to Google. I'm looking for a different number. They give me a VP's number. I'm calling that VP. They have nothing to do with the hiring process, but that might lead me to the hiring manager's cell phone. If they're, caught off guard, they might volunteer it. You might get an email address. Do it. It'll pay off in droves and separate you from others. Next question.
What are some effective ways to psych yourself prior to an interview?
I'm sorry, to what? The middle got cut off.
Psych yourself?
Oh, psych yourself up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for me, it's drinking a glass of water. It is going in there with an added, well, first of all, get a good night's sleep, okay? Do not overtax yourself. Don't stress out. It's one day out of your life. If you don't get the job, your world is not gonna come to a crashing halt. People still love you. So go in there without being worried. Okay, the worst thing you want is to not sleep the night before, have anxiety, and then you'll bomb the interview. Your passion needs to come out. So slapping yourself like some people do to get pumped up like you see some athletes do, that doesn't work during an interview. You know what does it for me, guys? It's getting dressed up. It's almost like when you dressed for the prom. Remember those days? You went to the prom, you got dressed up in your beautiful gown, you got your makeup and your hair done if you're a girl, and the guys, whatever we did to get ready, but we looked great, we had confidence, and that made the night special. So it's almost like that. You get dressed up, get prepared the night before, and so that no matter what happens the next day, you have a nice breakfast and you convince yourself that the world is going to be here after this interview. My family still loves me after this interview. It's not the end of the world, but I'm going to get this job. That's my attitude. That's how I psych myself up. I look great. I feel great. I got a great night's sleep. I just had a great breakfast. And that's it. Don't act the part. You know, you have to show an emotion. I'm not saying caffeinate beforehand because that could crater on you, but be in the moment. You know, if you do all these things in advance, you're going to naturally be psyched up. Remember that thing I said about looking for silver linings? Well, this is where that comes into play. Beginning tomorrow morning, remember, hopefully you made a commitment to yourself that you're getting out of bed with a glasses half full attitude. And if you do that every day until that interview comes, then it's going to be like second nature. You don't have to prepare for it. You're just going to be a positive person going forward. Next question.
It is, how long should your elevator speech be when asked, tell me about yourself?
Okay, so I call that an elevator pitch, or some call it a sales pitch. It's 30 seconds long. Practice it, write it out, one paragraph. I have my students do this in my some of my college courses. If you're writing up an elevator with the CEO and all you have is 30 seconds in between floors to impress them, here's what you should say. I am so excited about the progress that we're making in this company. I am so excited to be part of the team. I don't get a lot of opportunities to speak with you, but you know, maybe one day we can have lunch together, and I'd love to talk about these two things that I think we can leverage to become even more profitable. That's 30 seconds, right? And in an interview, if all you had was that 30 seconds, think of the highlights. What is different about you? Well, for me, I'm going to talk about I'm a family man. I am a father of 3. I have 2 children going to Cal Poly, a third one being trained or groomed to go to Cal Poly. I've written 2 books. I have, here's a great one, right? Here's something that none of you know. Andrea does, nobody else does. I've been married for 25 years, but my wife and I have known each other since the age of 7. Now, that might spawn a conversation in 30 seconds. If that's all you say, guys, now suddenly they're thinking, wow, there's a family man. We have a culture that supports family, right? He might be the right person. If he's willing to stick it out with a gal from 7 years old to today, maybe he's the right guy, right? He has 3 kids, he's a professor. That's what I'm highlighting, guys. I'm not talking about the terrible drive-in traffic to get here. I'm not talking about, you know, the bad experience I had with the last interview. No, I leave that at the door. I don't even bring it in with me. It's the highlights. Nobody, look, let me put it this way. Everyone has their own problems. Nobody wants to hear your problems. So if there's any negativity coming out of your mouth during that 30-second pitch or interview, you've already dug your grave. You might as well just stand up and walk out. Do not be negative. Silver linings over gray clouds. Remember, that's the takeaway from this conversation, right? One of them, at least. Next question.
During an interview, how can you be firm on a start date due to childcare issues, etc., even though they are pushing for you to start like yesterday?
Sure. So I would say be honest with them. This is a prearranged agreement that I have, or I couldn't get my childcare to start until next week. It wouldn't be any different if you had a trip planned to Europe, right? You're not going to cancel your trip that you spent $6,000 on to go to Spain because you might risk not getting hired. If you've done all the work leading up to this negotiation, then they're going to wait 1 more week to hire you. Remember, guys, they waited this long to find Mr. or Ms. Right. 1 more week is not going to kill them. You have all the leverage. Remember, you are who they seek. You are going to solve their problems for them. So whether it's a week or 2, it doesn't matter. In our company, for example, there are people who start, they don't have any vacation hours, yet they're allowed to go on vacation a month later. Why? Because they negotiated it during the interview process. Be upfront with them. Don't just, you know, call in sick. They won't appreciate that. But it's like asking your professor for an extension when the due date is approaching, right? Be courteous. Let them know what's happening in your life. Most people have kids also. They're going to understand your predicament.
Okay.
Next question.
So it looks like we have about 30 more questions, and it's 7:05. So I know this was supposed to go until 7. Are you okay, Eddie, continuing with a few more?
Absolutely.
And,
I'm totally cool. If you
okay.
guys want to hang out, I'm cool. If you don't mind me wiping the sweat off my mouth.
The next
Okay.
question is, on a thank you note to the interviewer, should you also add your references as well?
No, I wouldn't. Don't give them more information than is warranted or is necessary. So you've already given them your references. Here's what I do. When I'm sending my book, so if you guys sign up for the next class on the 17th, you're gonna get my book, right? You're gonna get a little note that I professionally crafted that has all of my awards at the bottom. Why do I do that? Not to show off, but I wanna make sure that you understand that this is a credible person in front of you that wrote this book. So I've done that in a thank you letter. I've included my business card. I've included awards, all these 6 awards on, really professional rendering of them. And that's it, no description, nothing else. So it's the card, and then inserted in the card is a folded 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Again, that's the extra information that they may not have heard of or remembered during the interview. But by golly, they're going to get it at the end because I'm really proud of this stuff. If I talked about best places to work and how I can get you on that list or win a number of awards for your company, they may not remember that a week later or 2 weeks later when they get the card. But if you put it in front of them on the thank you card on a separate insert, now suddenly they can remember, hey, yeah, this dude said he can do this for us. Let's call him back. Next.
That kind of goes into the next question, which is, whom should you address the thank you note to if there's more than one person on the interview panel?
Then everyone gets a thank you card. Yep, I've had a panel of 5 people got a card. It doesn't matter. You don't know who the hiring manager is. You can treat them all equally.
That's true. How should you answer the question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself as blank?
Is 10 best or 1 best? On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say I'm definitely not on the high end or the 10, if that's the best. I would say something, because you got to be humble, right? Nobody wants to know it all. So that automatically kicks off the opposite ends. I'm not terrible either. And I'm definitely not middle of the road. So that puts me, I would say 7, 8, or 9. And so I would answer it with humble answer 8. I have opportunities, right? I'm not perfect. This is exactly what I would say. I am an 8. I recognize that I have my own opportunities and I'm working on them. But again, if you say that, that might open the question of, well, tell me about your opportunities if they haven't asked already. So be prepared to answer that as well. But never say I'm perfect. I'm a 10. Nobody is. Next.
Most job listings that I've been applying to are requiring 1 to 3 years experience. What advice do you give me if I don't have the experience, but I meet the education requirements?
Okay, then talk about what you have learned through your education, through the theories that you picked up at Cal Poly that could address that organization's opportunities. If you notice they have a turnover issue and you just studied turnover in your HR class, then perhaps you can make a recommendation during the interview as to how you would recommend dealing with low turnover. Or high turnover rather, low retention, high turnover. You're solving a problem, right? You don't have to be an expert, but you have to be well studied if you're going to answer that question. Next.
During the current situation, is an email enough as a thank you note?
I'm sorry, email what?
Enough as a thank you note.
I like the personal approach of a note versus an email, because anyone can hammer out an email. It takes time and energy and effort to go to Hallmark and buy a card and mail it. So that shows a special touch, like you care. So I choose card over email. Or why not both? There's no harm in doing both.
Let's see. This one says, in dealing with recruiters before getting through to the actual interviewer, as soon as HR sees that I'm currently self-employed, they don't respond back. I found out online that they tend to avoid people who are self-employed, even though I have a lot of skills and qualifications to offer. They won't return my call or email follow-up.
So they're not returning their call because
They're self-employed.
what's wrong with that? That shows, I mean, it's all about how you portray yourself, right? Self-employed people are self-starters, they're business-minded, they're go-getters, they have initiative. So these are the big buzzwords you should include, right? Don't sell yourself short because you're whatever you are. You have to build up your qualifications, so to speak, by using your experience to your advantage. How you dress that up is completely up to you. In my opinion, you're highlighting things that a business owner would have that someone like me may not have. That you're not going to learn from a book. Unless you're in the trenches as a business owner, you have sourced, financing. You have, you've merged or you've gone through an acquisition. I mean, those are special, unique experiences that not a lot of people have had. So talk about them. You secured a loan for your business when you had nothing. You started this thing from ground up. You're a go-getter. You're a self-starter, right? You're using these buzzwords that only a business owner might have. And let me also touch on something on the opposite end of that. Okay, so this is what I deal with regularly. For the last 10 years, I have had no fewer than 4 jobs simultaneously. Okay, so I have 3 teaching jobs, and I have and then I have my 18-year director of training job. Some people automatically think, well, this guy doesn't have time for us. How is he teaching and doing this director job all at the same time? Well, how do you juggle all of that, right? And a family, and this and that, and maintain your happiness? The answer is you have to prioritize. You have to build systems. Now notice, I'm answering this question as if you should in a seat. Because to say, I don't know how I do it, just do it, that's not telling them anything. Instead, you're now lifting yourself up. I prioritize. This is what a director would do, right? I plan, I organize, I utilize my resources, I delegate when necessary, and I am goal-oriented. I don't want to let people down. That's how I accomplish things. Aside from that, I have a very understanding wife who picks up the slack and actually does a lot of the heavy lifting so that I can do my thing in supporting the family. Without her in my life, I could not accomplish anything. So see, and that was the truth, by the way. I'm not giving you guys BS right now, but this is how you should strategically answer certain questions about why or how do you prioritize, right? Anyway, next.
How do you proceed if the interviewer specifically asks you not to contact them?
I've never heard them saying, don't contact me. I don't think that'll ever happen. Bless you, Julie. I don't think they'll ever say that. If they do, I mean, that would be shocking, but if they do, just honor their request and say, when can I expect to hear from you? At the very least, they should answer that question.
Okay.
You should hear soon. That's not good enough for me. I wouldn't know. I don't say this, but ask them, can I hear from you, or can I expect to hear from you by Friday, this week or next? And at least hold their feet to the fire in answering that question, so you're not left wondering when it is you're going to hear back from them.
Great. So let's see. A lot of people are
These are
saying,
great.
yeah, they're great questions. And a lot of people are also saying thank you and that they enjoyed the presentation. We will be sharing the PowerPoint, and we're recording it. So we'll also post that. Andrea, correct me if I'm wrong, on the alumni website. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, it'll be on the alumni resource page on our website, and we'll also email the link along with the PowerPoint in the next couple days.
Fantastic.
And
It is a pleasure, guys.
Julie wants to know about how to sign up for the workshop on the 17th. Andrea, can you touch on that?
Sure. On the alumni resource page, we also have the registration link for that event as well. So if you visit our website, you can find the information. Alumni CPP, the alumni CPP website, sorry.
Thank you. And then it looks
That is going to be, that's going to be a presentation you will not want to miss. It piggybacks off of where this one ends off and talks about overall success in life. So if you want to be pumped up about life, right, not just winning an interview, make sure you come to the 17th. Sign up for that one. And there was a question in there, if you don't mind, Anna. It said, how do you prepare for an interview if you're over 50? That's a tough situation, right? Because maybe the job requires, I mean, you don't have the age group they're looking for, and they're not going to come out and tell you because it'll be discriminatory based on civil rights. But they're not going to say, oh, you were born in 1962, so you're out of the mix. Special advice for job seekers over 50 is highlight your experience, the battles that you've gone through. Don't highlight your age, right? You want to be aware that they might be looking for somebody younger, but that shouldn't be a deal breaker in your mind. You have unique experiences that perhaps I don't have. I'm only 47, so you have 3 years more experience than I do. Maybe what you say is, look, I've been through a lot of tough battles in my life. I've done numerous things in my career for my organization that I'm really proud of. And I built a lot of successful teams, and I can do the same thing for your company here. So you're taking the age out of the equation, and it's all about how you highlight things, right? They're going to touch on it even more if you bring it up. Well, I'm 50 years old. I'm no spring chicken. You just highlighted a deficit of yours, perhaps, right? Don't think of it as a deficit. Think of it as a benefit that you have a unique set of skills that a 40-something person may not have because they just haven't experienced it yet. More questions?
It looks like that's all of them. Just scrolling up to make sure I didn't miss any.
All right, guys, here's a quiz question. What are you going to do right after this call ends tonight? 2 things. No, one thing after this call ends, and then one thing as you wake up tomorrow. Give me the highlights there. First, what are you doing right after this call ends? Anyone? I shared it on the presentation. There was a whole slide. Log in, Frank, you are the man, brother. You get a gold star. Log in, sign up for September 17. That's exactly right. What are you doing tomorrow morning as you get out of bed? What are you looking for? Are they gray clouds or silver linings?
I don't think you guys were playing. What is it?
Exactly. Good attitude. Glasses half full. Silver linings, right? Throughout my day, I'm looking for positivity. And come on the 17th, you're going to learn about distancing yourself from low ROI initiatives. ROI stands for return on investment. We'll talk about that and how to surround yourself with other positive influences and distancing yourself from others. Have a wonderful evening, guys. I've enjoyed our time. Thank you for all of the questions tonight and for your engagement. It really made for a better and successful presentation. So I appreciate it. Have a wonderful evening, and please reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns. If there's anything I can do to help you, I'm here for you. Take care.